and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mary. That's second the crack again. Can we have the roll call?
Sure. Trustee Sierra?
Here.
Trustee Jessberger?
Here.
Trustee Graham?
Here.
Fiscal Officers here, Township Administrator, Chief of Fire, Chief of Police,
Here.
Superintendent of Public Works,
Here.
some residents.
Thank you. Our next meeting is July 6th, 2023 at 3820 Cleveland Avenue at 6:30 p.m. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to accept the agenda of flexibility. Second?
Trustee Sierra?
Yes.
Trustee Graham?
Yes.
Trustee Jessberger?
Yes. And then, so last year we based Code Enforcement Appreciation Week off of, I think, Florida. And then after doing some more research, it doesn't really look like there's any sort of celebration in Ohio. So I, to try to keep everyone kind of together, I wanted to make June 4th through the 10th Code Enforcement Appreciation Week. So it would be just appreciating the work that they do. I do believe that what they do often goes unnoticed because they do a lot of the behind the scenes work with codes for building as well as city codes, like restaurants, anything like that. And I know that we only have our one code enforcement officer, but Dan has done an amazing job. And so I would like for June 4th through 10th to be Code Enforcement Appreciation Week.
I didn't hear what Jane said. Oh. So we want to like put the motion on the board. Is this a motion?
No.
Oh,
It's recognition.
yeah. I'm into recognizing them. I could see benefit to that. I think that they do amazing work. Definitely a lot of behind the scenes work, especially what they did recently with being able to make changes to Northern Lights and all of the hard work that they put into making sure that all of the codes are up to date regarding the different buildings. I think they add a lot of value. I would be happy to have a code enforcement week.
All right, on to Township Administrator onboarding, document discussion, and update.
Thanks. We've been doing a couple of policy updates for just because certain roles don't necessarily have an official onboarding packet. And a role that we don't have any onboarding official packet was Matt's role. And unfortunately, he's decided to retire and leave our beautiful home to go gallivanting into the wind. So I wanted to make sure we retained some of that information that's listed in the little head of his. So he has been gracious enough to start putting together a contacts list. So like for example, OTARMA, if somebody wanted to, who was our contact at OTARMA, who was our contact at the Ohio Township Association, a lot of different organizations that he has had to build relationships with. We want to make sure that we pass that information on to the next township administrator. So he's done a pretty fantastic job of kind of going through all of his responsibilities and listing how to, how to access the information that he does. So we just kind of started that. I wanted to open it up to everyone and see if there's anything that needed to be added or if we have a chance to review this.
I had asked Matt for a projects list to help us keep track of the many things that he has, many plates spinning in the air. And that looks like a really great list. I wonder if there isn't something to mention about some of them that would be important for somebody to know, or Maybe you just intend to just kind of verbally do that.
I
When
did not
you get to train
expand
someone.
on them, but
Yeah.
And I also think it would just help us to remember all of the amazing work that you've done.
there, a lot of them are several years out, so we don't have a whole lot of information on them yet. But,
Yeah.
their thing is coming down the pipe, so yes,
Yeah. But for instance, Cleveland Avenue, we have signs in the works, we're committed to, trees in the median and doing our, blah, blah, blah. So, It's a great- it's a great document. I don't have half of these contacts myself, so I appreciate that.
I'll keep adding to it between now and twice.
Thank you.
Alright, Regionomics?
Yeah, so Rebecca, I printed this off out of our email in case you hadn't had a chance to see it. Matt sent this to us just a few days ago from Bill Lafayette, and we had agreed we were gonna just kind of keep the economic development conversation in front of us. And his proposal seems to me, if you jump down there to the second to the last paragraph, really modest for getting going on surveys and focus groups. I mean, this isn't even $5,000, I mean, we don't even need, and Deb's gonna get to it later, but this is already sort of money that's been set aside by the Gen Z board anyway. So I guess I just wanted to bring it before the board to make sure we're all of a mind to keep going, to have Matt tell Bill, yep, this sounds good to us, let's go for it and get started. If you're both down with that.
And he did submit some surveys as well, and that were
Yeah, I think that's a matter of just getting a little work team together and going through those and honing them and, I'm happy to help with that and, it can be, I think that can happen pretty efficiently.
I'm happy to help too. So,
I think the big thing is to give him the green light and then, we can start theoretically, looking at those surveys and hacking them down to size, because they are way more than what they need to be.
yeah, and also it would be nice to make them a little bit more township-specific questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we want to pass a motion allowing the township administrator to kind of do a new contract with Bill. We didn't do that with the previous thing, we could have. I'm not sure if it's required, but it seems like it would be good to just, if the board likes this idea, passing a resolution just allowing the township administrator to sign a contract with Mr. Lafayette or Reaganomics, and then you conduct work.
Since there's not actually he didn't provide something to sign by way of a contract, this is just sort of his proposal, I might recommend we just do something like, continue to use Mr. Lafayette as consultant basis towards focus groups and surveys. Does that work?
Sure, if not, we can find out in the next month and make it retro if we needed to.
Yeah.
He's already done work on our behalf.
Yeah.
The board is sort of just greenlighting more work.
Yeah, and Gen Z board set aside, what, 50,000? Towards
Yes,
economic
yeah.
development, so we are in real good shape that way. We can use him for a long time, and he's gonna be this modest in his pricing.
Does that still need to be a resolution?
So it sounds like Debbie, you were trying to work out the motion.
Yes, let's pass a resolution allowing the township administrator to sign any contracts or agreements with Reaganomics to continue their economic development, outreach, and surveys efforts.
Would it be a resolution because we're creating a contract?
Yes,
Okay.
so we'd be entering into a
I would
contract.
just say something.
So moved.
All right,
Second.
can you write that down? First was yes, Jane seconded. Trustee Serum,
Yes.
Trustee Grimm,
Yes.
Trustee Jesberger.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, on to the fiscal officer.
I request a motion to approve the May 18th meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second?
Trustee Sierra?
Yes.
Trustee Graham?
Yes.
Trustee Jester?
Yes.
Request a motion to approve payroll.
Second?
Trustee Sierra?
Yes.
Trustee Graham?
Yep.
Trustee Jester?
Yes.
Request a motion to approve bills.
So moved.
Second?
Trustee Sierra?
Yes.
Trustee Graham?
Yes.
Trustee Jesper?
Yes.
Request a then and now purchase order to Reaganomics in the amount of $7,400 for an economic development study that started in the year 2022.
So moved.
Second?
Did you want any discussion on this? Can you explain? I sent it in an email today. So the Jersey board is going to be paying for this, so they have already sent the money along as the report's already been done. So the reason this resolution doesn't have a line item listed is it's not going to hit our books. We're basically going to catch that money from the Jersey board and it's going to go straight to this check to bill, so I don't have to appropriate it and blah, blah, blah. Otherwise, usually, always, we're saying which line item we'd like to pay something from. So there's a lot of clerical stuff. All right, trustee Sierra?
Yes.
Trustee Graham?
Yes.
Trustee Jesper?
Yes.
And then a very small PO, but just popped up today that this particular vendor would like a PO instead of a regular way we do business. So requesting a PO to government forms and supplies in the amount of $1,115 for police forms to be paid from 2081-210-410 per vendor request.
So moved.
Second?
Trustee Sierra?
Yes.
Trustee Graham?
Yes.
Trustee Jesper?
Yes.
And then I wanted to use flexibility to touch on the budget. Since you had a draft from our last meeting, and I didn't know if you wanted to appropriate any more monies for the potential Cleveland Avenue signage project. You can wait till next year, but if you wanted to earmark something, we could put that in our budget now. We'll still get more detailed when we do permanent appropriations, but Melissa thought it would be good to set aside. Do we think we're gonna spend money next year on Cleveland Avenue?
Do we have a start date, anybody in mind?
Next month.
I think it still might be longer than next year. It's how it feels anyway.
Okay.
They're doing right away
Which
now.
takes a year. They'll probably finish that up this year, so it may go out to bid this fall. They say
Maybe, so maybe.
24. Say 24, there may be something.
Signs are gonna be really modest, it wouldn't be difficult to amend.
Yeah,
The board signs or.
We're way ahead of mending. This is just us trying to be like rock stars,
Yeah.
pretending we know
I
what
think
we're
it's
gonna end
gonna be-
2024 with.
Really modest.
Okay.
The signs have already been purchased.
Okay, all right, so
There
no
we go.
like $500,000.
So they're,
But I think Melissa and we're talking about the softscape.
Like, you don't have to, but just if you wanted to allocate, I'm gonna say at least 50,000 for Cleveland Avenue efforts next year.
Yeah, if that makes sense more than signs to
Yeah.
put a large amount into just a capital outlay for it.
I think that's what was being discussed.
That's what we're discussing.
Okay.
Again,
I just heard signs, so I was like, this the signs, okay.
I mean, the phases will still be bringing your draft of appropriations. You'll still need to green light, the board will still need to green light any transfers happening. This is just sort of your
Yeah.
moment to
Yeah.
spitball, for lack of a better word, what we think we would want to invest in Cleveland Avenue next calendar year.
If we were to plant decent sized trees in as many medians as they're talking about, that will sustain them, and whatever our part they're gonna determine is our part of wanting to have a little bit nicer, maybe some concrete stamped kind of sidewalks in some of those medians where there are pedestrian crossings, it could be a big price tag.
We've really been kind of,
I would say start with 200,000 in it,
yeah,
and we'll just amend when we get a clearer idea.
okay, does that sound good to the other two folks?
Yeah.
I think it makes sense. And then I would suggest if we wanted to apply for more OPWC grants, similar to this year, we moved 85,000 when one got greenlit and one got approved. Again, I feel very carried for the horse here, but did you want to put any more into the transfers outline? I think we have 1.4 for the other departments. I guess we're recommending another 100,000 for if OPWC granted a new grant. similar to what we did with the repaving on, Ormond and Walford.
Yes.
That got greenlit by OPWC, and then you approved moving down 85,000 for that fund. Again, there'll be time, but if you
I'd
want,
rather do it
I
if we
wouldn't
get
say
a
more than
grant.
100,000. I wish the grant would pay 100% of it, but we have to like put in our share.
Do we need to create, I mean, if, whether or not we get the grant, would we be able to create the line item and the fund then?
You can then, and in one sense, I think you kind of already allocated these monies, because we said repaving 300,000, and you guys said half Gen Z, half CDO. So whether that lives in the general fund or we do transfer out later, that's kind of just clerical stuff that we can move stuff around, so. Again, this is just having more muscle in the fiscal department. We've never spent this much time on the budget, so we don't have to. It kind of gets pretty stressful, but it's okay to keep where things are at, but do know if we do want to make a new fund, we might be upping the transfers out line item as we get into next year.
So is this more coming from just wanting to be proactive?
She has almost 33 years of experience, so she just has a good sense of how things are going to go, and we're having a lot of discussion. And if, as we've said on paper, we want to apply for more OPWC projects. If they get approved next year, you would have to make a new fund for, let's say, the street that doesn't exist, the ABC project. We apply, we get it, we have to make a new fund for the ABC project, and I have to pull that out of the general. We could have discussion of what you intended to be the income tax support, which is in the Gen Z line in the general fund. Basically, I would, if you wanted to just keep it under that amount, I would say, okay, that 150,000 is going to come from Gen Z. Put that in the transfers outline, make your new ABC fund. In our Gen Z Excel sheet, I would track, okay, Gen Z is going to pay for brand new projects.
I just feel a lot more comfortable doing it if we actually had a grant we were talking about rather than in the abstract this way.
Yeah.
I mean, we've always done it that way before, right? Won the grant,
We have.
created the fund, made the transfer,
Yeah,
let's do
but
it.
then it also sometimes sort of leads to surprises of, I don't know why this or that fund got so drained. So you don't have to, it was just sort of a earmark that we said we want to do more OPWC projects. Do know if we get them, we'll have to transfer out from the general fund. You don't have to know that number now, it was just that you could. All right.
So, are you proposing like a specific fund for OPWC projects, but then wouldn't we still have to create a second fund that was actually for the name of whatever it is the grant that we
I
received?
wasn't proposing getting a fund started now. We have to wait till we get approved for a new project. And when we get approved for an OPWC project, that's when you create the new fund. And that project name is usually the street you're paving or storm drains. Or I'm so used to paving, but I'm starting to get aware there's also storm drains and many infrastructure things that could happen. So I'm not saying create a new fund. I'm saying to put money into a new fund for a new thing that may be approved, the board would need to allocate that money. You don't have to figure it out now, but what I'm saying is your transfers out line item in 2024 would be bigger if you get an OPWC project in 2024. And we could decide to pull that from the monies you've already allocated. You've already allocated $300,000 to happen in paving or infrastructure or anything. So perhaps the money's already there, or maybe you're trying to do both, those 7 sections and another OPWC. We're not gonna go down that rabbit hole tonight, just sort of letting you know. I think it's fine to leave it as is. If you want it to be just long way to say, every time we get an OPWC project approved, the road super and the township administrator is working with the fiscal office to make sure we have the money available. If we get greenlit, transfer it out, and so on. You give me permission to transfer it out, you give me permission to create the new fund. So we can leave it as is. The only change I can make to the budget is adding the $200,000 for the Cleveland Avenue efforts. Probably into 2025, that might be more money, and we'll know by this time next year.
Well, I think it sounds like we've already appropriated it, because we already did the 350, which is what that OPWC money would be used for, correct? Or would we be using it for a different?
No, with your 7 sections, it's really if you wanted to continue, I assumed you wanted to continue with your 7 sections every year and do OPWC, which is kind of a lot. We're doing that now, we're living through it. So you've told the road super to go ahead and apply for OPWCs next year. that is not related to the 7 parcels, the 7 buckets. Let's pay one every year. So you said perhaps, I think in the abstract, maybe I'll do $300,000 a year in those 7 buckets. The OPWC stuff is separate. And to be biting off both at the same time is expensive. So I'm not saying stop on OPWC grants, of course, nobody's saying that. I'm just sort of letting everybody know the road sweepers and the township administrator house forecast these kinds of things. So it's fine to leave it as is and to plug along, and if we get it, the money's there, but in the 3 to 5 year forecasting window, these are the kinds of things we have to go down rabbit holes, not in the public meeting forum, because it just kind of takes a lot of time. But in a nutshell, from my memory, you guys have appropriated $300,000 to be repaving efforts, and I assume that was out of the 7 sections of the township, and those are not OPWC backed, as far as I know. Luckily, one did alleviate, the one that we did just get will sort of give a credit of that big $500,000 north of Ferris. We'll get sort of credit of $50,000 off because the grant they did get is going to cover that later. So I'm good. I don't know if you guys are. I can talk to you more about it later. We're fine as is. Just putting that out there. That anytime you get on PWC, it'll need money transferred out of here. And perhaps there's enough with that 300. Perhaps you say, I want to take next year off on the 7 sections to get that, the other grants stuff figured out. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Committee and team reports, the Clinton Township chat, at the produce market last week. We had 9,000 pounds of food and it was, dispersed to 359 people. The next produce market is June 9th, from 4 to 6 p.m. Same place, drive-through style. Please bring your ID. We did have the last anti-violence walk in the township. It was successful. They will be doing 2 more walks in our township in October, so we'll finish being able to use our community room to do that. And then every month I have been picking a monthly awareness, and kind of last second I decided to switch to June being gun violence awareness. So gun violence awareness is a commitment to supporting services that enhance intervention and prevention initiatives to greater support individuals and communities who are plagued by gun violence. I did want to share just some stats from Columbus, Franklin County, and Ohio. African Americans in Franklin County are 10 times more likely to be victims of homicide by firearms. As of May 2023, homicide numbers are up compared to this time last year. And I think that after the most recent homicide, I think the city of Columbus is at 67 right now. In 2022, 90% of the 140 homicides in Columbus involved someone being killed by a gun. Guns are the leading cause of death among children and teens in Ohio. Ohio has the 17th highest rate of gun violence in the United States. And in the past 5 years, Ohio has seen a 41% increase in the number of homicides annually. So you might ask, what is something that you can do to be aware of gun violence and how to support becoming aware? So some things are to advocate and make communities safer, remember and or honor victims, support loved ones that are victims, spread awareness and promote gun safety, and wear orange. So I have my orange ribbon on today. Tomorrow is actually Gun Violence Awareness Day. And so a lot of people will be wearing orange tomorrow, but it is something that is trying to get out there to be aware. Obviously 365 days a year, but they try to highlight it more in the month of June. I know that while I was looking at our police department stats that Chief Jones just gave where he shares it, is I look at our numbers, and while some areas have increased, I do feel relieved to see that, you know, knock on wood, that we still are at 0 homicides. But I know that we've had families in our township in the last couple of years that have been affected by gun violence, with either home invasions, or unfortunately, we did lose a young male last summer at the State House. He was a resident of our township, and I believe he was 16 years old. And why, like I said, while these things are not particularly inside of our township, where our township lies is still affected by everything that the city of Columbus goes through. What Grandview goes through, what Clintonville goes through, what Ohio State goes through. So our communities are always touching, and everyone is impacted by gun violence, unfortunately. So I would just ask that if you have questions, you have ideas on something that we can do to highlight this month, if you yourself have been impacted, or you know of someone that has been impacted, and you would like to speak with someone, I am more than happy to take that time to do that. This is something that is very, very close to me, not only as my career as a licensed social worker, but also because of personally being impacted by these things. So as I've said a million times, you know, be responsible, look out for your neighbors. If you see something, say something. This is definitely a community issue. This is not a political issue. This is not a gun law issue. This is a absolute community, and we need to come together to find a solution.
I can tell you there's no gun law in the world that's gonna stop it.
Exactly.
Period.
So that's a good one. Litter sweep and self-defense class.
The fire department has the litter sweep here on 20th. We had, I believe, 10 participants. We picked up trash along Kenny Road, Kinnear, came back down past the fire station, and then at 1 o'clock that afternoon we held a women's self-defense class. We had 9 attendees.
Great, thank you. Any other committee or team?
Well, it's not really, but since it's kind of a flexible moment, I wanted to restart the chat with the trustee tradition that we've had going on for 3 or 4 years now. Thought I would kick that off relatively soon, and I wanted to know if, from department heads or anyone else, if there are any events or things we need to be aware of, say next Thursday, the 8th, that it would be a conflict with in the evening. I chose Thursday evening just because it's kind of a township sort of time, and so maybe there'll be a few more people available. I'd like to start over here, and then I'll find another day, probably in a week or 2, for the east side line. So let's say the 8th at 6:30, not hearing any conflicts.
Here at 999.
I'm gonna need somebody to make sure I can get in here.
What's the start time?
6:30, like a township meeting thing, just that time slot. Probably a few months ago, Matt and I took it on ourselves to take a look at the west side land use plans of old. And we went through and just did a little checklist of some things that we've accomplished, things we're working on, and obviously the stuff that's left still to do. So I'd love to use that as kind of a starting point for the conversation that evening. If you can help me, get the word out about that a little bit. We've got other things, sort of, in the offing for the west side, like the sidewalk over there and stuff like that, and just an opportunity to see where folks want to go next.
I can go ahead and put that on next door. At the shelter house?
No, let's do it here.
You wanna do it here at the firehouse?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Deborah, I'll get in touch with you. We'll figure it out.
We'll get it on the website and social media.
Yeah. Thanks.
On to Matt.
Monthly report has been submitted, just some highlights, kind of working with the board, they're reviewing resumes and setting up interviews and all that stuff to try to get that process going. 3806 Walford, we're still moving forward with that particular property, letter received out yesterday. So if you don't hear a response, we're kind of scheduled for June 20th for the next special meeting regarding that particular property. So it'll either be a hearing or hopefully maybe moving forward with the demolition of the property. I have reached out to COCIC and they are willing and able to work with the township and the property removed if that's what the direction we're going. We started the carport discussion, met with a company. We'll be discussing that a little later here. Budget committee, insurance committee, conversations with county economic development, and getting some discussions going in there. Attended the Stop Violence Walk and kind of the onboarding document that's been made tonight. So those are just some of the highlights. The next thing I have on here is this. I think I shared this with the trustees. There's a link us informal transit supportive infrastructure workshop on June 9th from 1 to 3 at Morpsey. I will not be in the office to attend that. They're kind of looking at doing the verbiage of what the project might look like and move forward with a potential budget ballot issue in November. That the trustees felt like it would be good to have someone from the township there, and so who might like to send that.
I'll go for one, unless somebody's taking some time off to do it, but, I attended an awful lot of that Northwest Corridor stuff, so I would like to see what
It's kind of a
this,
combination.
yeah, and I wonder if Dave would come. It seems sensible to have you involved in transportation stuff. Does that sound good to you?
Okay, I'll forward the information I have regarding that meeting to the two of you.
Okay, thanks.
And then, just a reminder, this is the only meeting in June. We only have one meeting in July and one meeting in August, so, after that, we'll get back to perhaps to a month or whatever the board decides. And just a quick reminder, June 19th, which is June 19th, and the offices will be closed in observance of June 19th. That's all I have.
Thank you. Chief Braylon?
For the monthly report, just a couple highlights. The department responded to 569 incidents for the month of May. The firefighters assisted with that litter sweep and some of those class deliveries discussed that occurred on the 20th. And the month of May, 18 locksmith kits were distributed at events that were left behind on incidents. Next, if I could put a little background to that, in mid-May, I was informed that Franklin County Board of Health was releasing stipend grants to the community health action teams. With us being one, I actually applied for a $10,000 stipend. These were put out for the funds to be used for community events and materials for those community events. We were actually awarded. The contract for the grant actually took a little longer to process and get to me than we thought, but I got that to our legal team last week. They reviewed and forwarded it on to me yesterday. So I apologize for all of the paperwork that was in the email that I sent to you yesterday. It's an 11-page contract, and then they made a resolution for this to proceed, which would be an approval of the contract and then approval of me to execute the contract. So if we're good with that, I'll read the resolution. Resolved that the board hereby adopts and approves the form of the agreement together with any such changes therein and amendments thereto not inconsistent with this resolution and not adverse to the township. The board hereby authorizes, empowers, and appoints on behalf of the board and the township Fire Chief Brian Fraley as the representative to execute the agreement and substantially the form on file with the township along with any changes or amendments thereto, provided that the approval of those changes and amendments by the representative and the character of those changes and amendments are not being inconsistent with the resolution or adverse to the township, and shall be evidenced conclusively by the representative's execution of the agreement. Furthermore, the representative is authorized to, on behalf of the township, take any and all actions and execute any and all documents that may be necessary to be completed by the township in order to finalize the agreement.
Second?
Trustee Sarah?
Thank you for your work on it, and in spirit I support it, but I'm gonna abstain because I have not been able to read 11 pages of the things.
Trustee Grim?
Yes.
Trustee Gessler?
Yes.
That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you. Chief Jones?
Didn't get the monthly report out until today. Cassie was on vacation until today, so we got all the reports done. The month of May, we did have several shots fired called. We did have 2 shootings. As a result of that, Taco Bell's getting remodeled. Both participants in that have faced charges. It was over a drug deal. The calls for the township went up significantly last month to 714 calls for service. A lot of those handguns. Yesterday, our Franklin County Chiefs Meeting, not just here in Clinton Township, but we've had the Bravo, the restaurant there, Relax. In the last 2 months, we've had 6 guns stolen out of vehicles while patrons are going into the bars there. And it's a trend we're seeing across Franklin County. These folks are hitting the restaurants, the bars, breaking into cars, finding guns that people are leaving in their cars. So if I suggest anything besides locking them up, is don't leave the guns in the cars. That's where they're getting them at. That's how they're finding their way into 12-year-old hands, as we saw last week. So yeah, a lot of runs last month. I know we've had some issues on the Facebook page about people not seeing officers running radar. That's the reason why. I'd love to have more people enforcing the traffic laws that everyone seems to be disobeying these days, but we just running protocol and have that personnel do that. Next item I have is a life-saving award for Officer James Goodwin. And I'll toss this out to the trustees. Anyone would like to come and see the video of what occurred, I'm more than happy to show it to you. Officer Goodwin responded to a dispatch in the area of Ward Road back on May 21st of a man with mental health crisis. When he arrived, he was talking to a relative out front, heard screaming inside the house. He was waiting on backup, and once he heard the altercation in the house, he had to go in through a front door and found a very large male with a butcher knife trying to stab his sister in the back corner of the hallway. At that point, Officer Goodwin, not knowing what he had, holstered his weapon and used a taser. The mother of this individual had both of her hands, keeping him from stabbing his sister with everything she had. With the factors in that award, we've Officer Goodwin has been issued a life-saving award, not only for the sister, but also for doing what he did and the quick thinking and training that we provided our folks. I'm very proud to say that our training paid off in that situation. Next with Officer Goodwin, his last official day will be June 7th. He accepted a position of Avon on the lake, at my lake area, to be closer to his family and his wife's family, so we can't fault him for that. But we should have a replacement for that position for the July meeting. We have 2 candidates right now that we're kind of keeping a close eye on and seeing how the training is progressing. So that should happen. And to inform the board, most of you know I go on vacation around the last week of June. So June 23rd through July 4th, I will be in the state of South Carolina. I believe that we already took care of the deal for the citations. It was a last minute thing. That's all that I have.
Do you have any update on the Audrey/Huey block watch?
No, I haven't. I'll try to reach out to her. We gave contact information to all the participants. I don't know where they have fallen. We're trying to get that program set up. I know Officer Reeves, we coordinated with him also, and we haven't received any calls from any of those participants that were there. So we handed out the block watch booklets. I'm more than happy to, like I told participants there, to organize it, to get it together. And we were gonna wait on them to organize and come forward, and then we can.
Alright, thank you. Dave?
I've already submitted my monthly report last week. Just some highlights from there. As of last week, we collected 64 tons of brush, around 36 tires to date. We finally got I think I maybe said something to the board already, but it was in the month, last month, it was the cell playground area, the plexiglass was bust out. We finally got that order in, got that secured and back on. So that's been done. Guy and I attended a stormwater conference in Sandusky. That's got some good information from there. Then we started to do some work, had some calls about the playground area and stuff, and the tennis court over on the west side, which we already had it on our radar to replace the tennis court net. Had some cracks they were concerned about. We got the cracks filled. We're starting on replacing the mulch over there in the park. We got 2 areas already done, border and mulch. So once we get caught back up on things for this week, we'll start back on there by next week. Hopefully get that done in the next couple of weeks.
I'm sorry, what park was that you were mentioning?
The Walkhouse Park on this side. Then the crew last Thursday met with Carol and cleaned up some of the Triangle Park and planted some flowers in here at the Triple Nine. Under her direction, which we appreciated that. Appreciated you taking care of it for all the years you have.
Thank you. I got just one thing to add about the flowers. When your guys and you are over here, like we're having a really long stretch of dry weather right now, it's not supposed to rain until sometime next week. If they could just take a few minutes to stop and water what we planted, otherwise it's going to be dead.
Okay, I'll pass that on.
Thanks.
And that's all the highlights that I have from the monthly report. The other topic I have is carport update. This has been kind of a little bit of a challenge. We finally found a Project Architectural Ltd. that give us a price for the design of the carport. The other issues, we'd like to have the carport put on the south side of the parking lot.
It always has been.
Oh, yeah, we'd like to have it.
Yeah, we wanted it
Yeah,
there.
we was wanting it on the south side of the parking lot because of weather issues and things. But there is a sanitary line and a storm sewer that runs through there.
Of course there is.
So I reached out to the sanitary department and asked, if they would okay us to do that, understanding that there is an issue, that they might have to take the structure down to do repairs, what have you. And if it's an emergency, they think the time constraints of tearing it down would be an issue, so this time they prefer not to let us build over top of it. So we could switch it to the north side. The power does come from the north side over to the south side for the Tesla vehicles, so we have to move them stations and what have you. In the quote I did give you, they got phase 2, and there's a $6,500 plus or minus cost there for soil borings, which we already have them done from when the project so we'll have it pass that on to them, that we have all that. So that should be suitable for them. If you want us to pursue this,
So, I'm just kind of confused with my cardinal directions. Where is the north side? So like, do you mean that the two?
He means behind the solar.
Yeah, it'll be against
Okay.
the salt barn, that side of the police department's parking lot.
So will you be able to access everything that's there,
Yeah.
Yes.
even if there's a bunch of park?
Yeah, the salt barn's door is behind there. We're saying it's
It
gonna
won't
start like
interfere
a dumpster.
with the salt barn.
But the salt barn's here with the opening, the carport will be all on this way, and the cars will exit here. So there shouldn't be any conflict between the two structures, plus the salt barn is raised a little bit, and there's like a little curve there anyways, so,
Water won't get in.
yeah, those two structures really wouldn't impact each other, but getting in and out.
But
Yeah.
isn't that where that drain is?
Yeah, it don't wanna affect any of the drainage and the electric, what we're talking about, that conduit's already running from that side to where the current chargers are for the Teslas. We'll have to move the pedestals to the other side and rewire it.
And that is included in this quote.
No, this is just the design.
This is only to be an architect.
This will be a steel structure.
Oh, I think I read electrical lighting and charging stations, and I apologize, I assumed that meant they would
That's the
do
design.
everything.
Yeah, that,
That would be part of the plan, but
yeah, it'll be part of the thing. Once we get done with this, then we can go out for bid.
How many architects did we talk to?
Just one.
this is what,
Is it because no one else responded, or?
And finding suppliers, they're telling us right now, they don't know when it can happen.
Right.
And is this, do we still wanna put the solar lights on top? Or is that why we only could find one firm, or was it just like, in general, only one firm responded to wanting to give us a quote?
The slope wouldn't be good for solar, it's the opposite. It would, you don't put solar panels face, the slope is gonna be to the north. The solar panels would need to be facing south or west.
Yeah, they just have certified drawings from the architect for the steel structure, the electrical inside, the charging stations.
How many spaces would it be?
All
14.
14.
and it would, at the far end, the roof would be a little higher, so it would be,
accommodate.
can get underneath cover as well.
This or a future transit van.
How many vehicles currently in the fleet?
Currently, we've got 12. But they suggested because of the steel, the layout of 2 spaces really weren't gonna save us anything.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's only 12, that's all. Are you gonna be able to, the fact that it's open to the south and the slope being to the north, I mean, part of what we're trying to do here is avoid having to scrape windows. They're still gonna be scraping the rear windshields, it sounds like to me, unless we can make it significantly long enough out into the aisle.
Well, Dave and I were kind of
Not a
talking a
good
little bit this
situation.
afternoon, that perhaps if you maybe slope it southward possibly, and then even have like a little vertical thing at the end of it to try to keep weather.
Yeah,
From
you could do a salt
north to
box
south.
roof that's shorter on the south and longer down the north side, that might work.
And the first house I ever bought had a carport, and I thought, what a waste the structure is. But I never had a straight car windows when they had a part underneath there.
It would at least
Can't explain it, but
It would help keep it cooler in the summer. I mean, this is certainly not great news that it would, snow could blow in, but some carport would help versus nothing.
I think there's a way that we can talk to the architect to explain what our issues are and see what they can suggest or recommend.
Is this architecture firm affiliated with construction as well? I mean, they're thinking they're gonna continue?
It's a possibility, depending on how busy their crews are, they kind of do stuff, they got subcontractors that they use. So yeah, they can go from design to build, but at that point, for competitiveness, we would go out to bid
I was
So
gonna
they
say,
may be-
they're not gonna come in under bid, we're gonna have to bid it, they know that.
Correct. So
Right.
they might be the lowest bid, they might not be the lowest
Yeah,
bid. Just,
yeah.
once we get the design part done, and he said sometimes we're lower, sometimes we're a little higher,
Mhm.
depending on what their workload is.
Can you, I don't know who it would be, but can you reach out to the city to see who did their carport with the new policing station that's up at Sankis and Lozelle up in Worthington? Cause there,
It
there's
wouldn't be the
a,
police department, it'd be somebody in the city planning.
there's a super long and it looks nice, but I don't know who did, I don't know who the city uses. I don't know if they bid out or they're
I'm
able
sure
to do
they
it
did.
themselves, so. It might be an idea just to ask.
It's a good idea.
So just in terms of process, I mean, it's really typical that we try to talk to 3 people. So we did try and we got no returns of phone calls, et cetera. We tried other architecture firms and we just only got 1 response. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. When I came on, I was asked, do you know anybody that does this? Because we've reached out and no responses. And I said, well, I have worked with this firm in the past. I said, I could stop by and ask them if they would be interested. And he said, sure, yeah, we'd be interested.
Right, so we've gone out to bid before and not gotten contractors' responses. I'm specifically asking, have we tried to reach out to architecture firms and not gotten replies?
I have reached out to firms I've found online
Uh-huh.
to try to get responses as to what they could provide and receive no responses to those.
Okay, just wanna know we've done our due diligence with only looking at 1 thing, so
And
I'm satisfied
unfortunately, I
with that.
think what we're running into here is much like everything else,
Right.
is that this is such a small project. Bigger firms, other firms have bigger projects and they're just not, and I think this individual actually said
Yeah,
that
well,
some project, people are just coming in stupid high
Yeah,
to get, say, if they know you aren't gonna get bids for it, and figure maybe you'll do it. I've been dealing with this for a while, trying to find, opportunities. Found some places online, one company wanted a fabric rep, that made no sense whatsoever.
yeah.
And then reached out to several others through their websites. And received no responses.
Could it, I mean, trying to just like be creative, could you reach out to like architecture schools to ask like where they have students do like internships if they have to, and then see if any of who they partner with does this?
I've not personally done that, but, OSU has the school, open school
And
architecture.
I think it's a good idea.
They're a little stuck up.
I'm sorry.
They're a little stuck up.
Okay.
I went over to the cemetery, dropped Matt from 1880, but then to do the actual breakdown of the actual sizes. And they're like, we don't do that kind of stuff. I said, I can't hire one of your students, we don't do that information out.
So, I attended the city and regional planning program through the school, middle school of architecture. I can, I'll say the city planning students wouldn't have that background, and I can see if I can get in contact with some of that.
So I feel like I opened a little bit of a can of worms here, and I wanna retract a little bit of it. I'm satisfied if I personally am satisfied if we made other attempts to reach other places, that we're not only going with like the first thing we talked to, or the first, all I needed to know was that we had done some due diligence. I think we've been waiting on this project for an awfully long time. I think we need to keep moving forward with it, and I think $21,500 is not gonna break the bank, and it sounds pretty reasonable to me. So that's just my take on it so far. If it were just up to me, I would move forward with this.
Well, we saw the plans too from the original construction, it was way overpriced.
Right.
Well, it doesn't, and that didn't meet your requirement with it. That's all like, timber
Timber frame.
framing and all that stuff, and, with the way we would like to do it, more of a cantilever roof, which would eliminate posts, which will eliminate possibilities for vehicles hitting posts and getting damage to vehicles. So we're trying to eliminate posts and everything. By doing that, we really pretty much have to go to a metal structure. So the plans we currently have with the timber structure, actually I think that may be that work too. Right?
Well, I would still suggest with that being in mind, reach out to the city. Their whole structure up there at Sancus and Lozelle, I think it is at, whatever that is, Lozelle Park area, their new station right there, it's all metal. Like it wouldn't hurt to ask.
For the Hampshire one, you're gonna have a center, you have to have a center beam on the outside.
Yeah,
Can't
just,
leave
yeah,
the whole blank.
yeah, just try to minimize the
But,
number.
but a little trick for that center beam, you know what I mean by the post cover, the plastic post covers? Get one of those, cut the top off and drop it on that post when it's set before the rest of it's attached to it. So that the post is taking the cover, but you can use it some of this.
Our initial thought would push the post all the way towards the back, and then talking with someone who knows what they're talking about with the weight, the snow, weight and all that stuff.
That's what I'm saying.
That's really, really expensive to get it this far back, so, you know, talking about moving the post up a ways, which then gets into possible boardings and all that stuff. But maybe putting something around the post to kind of cushion it would be an opportunity. So. I think David had a potential motion that, well, maybe more of us reach out about number of times to the city.
Yep, we'll continue.
Bring back in July. Is that,
I mean, I'm okay with it, but I don't wanna cause any like,
Does anybody go up that way all the time? Because a lot of times those companies have their tags on their stuff that they build like that.
I will be up there this weekend.
I could make phone calls
I
tomorrow.
think just like walk around and look for like a tag on them.
It could be something that, we go and take some pictures if we like it.
Check.
Yeah, we can go and take some pictures. And, where you going, Mark?
Oh, you're fired.
And we could pass that information on to this engineer also, that this is something we're kind of looking at, this design.
So here's another suggestion. Perhaps we could make a couple phone calls real quick and add this on to our, special on the 20th
Yeah.
as another agenda item to reconsider, so that we can keep moving with whatever we found out. How's that?
I'm into that.
Good.
And I would also, I do like the idea of reaching out to CCAD just because it is a smaller project, so if we can kind of, if they are licensed or if it gets approved by one of the licensed instructors, that it's given to a class to do. We're benefiting the community in that way because Columbus State is a public school system. And we ask Ohio State to do economic development studies all the time. We don't necessarily know how this is different, and it could potentially save us $25,000. So, you know, if we are going to be making phone calls, I think it's a good idea.
My only thought here is schools are out, so I'm not sure. I'm assuming we'll have summer classes, but
Well, it's college,
It's-
so I would say yes. they have some classes.
Yeah.
There'll be some little staff will be around.
so I mean if students are, if there's no summer classes with students in the program, that might potentially delay things until fall. But I'll check with Columbus State as well.
So,
Take a look.
are you done with your items? Because I had a question for you.
Well, one more thing I've got
Okay, go.
to bring up. I know the last meeting I talked about the brush chipping collection, and I was kind of going to keep track of what's our costs and stuff for that. At the end of May, we end up with 357 and a half hours of manpower and a cost, and it's not benefits or anything I get, cost over $17,000 so far for our employees' hourly rate, equipment, and things like that. Just
For a month of chipping?
That's since we started. That's to date, to the end of May.
To the
This
end of
calendar
May,
year.
so
It's
2
over
months
seven.
of chipping?
Uh,
Did we start in
We done a
April?
little bit in February. We started collecting a little bit in
Oh,
February.
really?
We only had like
Okay.
less than $800. Then, March went up a little bit higher.
I didn't realize we started there.
April, we spent over about $6,200, and this last month we was over $7,500 in May.
We had
It's
some
just
people
kinda
on
get
this
a-
side that I think must have cleaned out their whole yard. I mean, a couple of really, really big ones.
So just give kind of reference to what the cost of that is.
So I actually had a couple things that I wanted to mention tonight. One was, so in our last meeting, we talked about OPWC. Did we get penalized for only paying the loan, or paying the loan off? We found out, no, we do not. And then we said, do we get any points for waiting? No, not really, is the answer to that. And so I think some responses to that email were, let's see if we've got any ideas, right? So I just don't want to lose track of that. Has there been more conversation about any significant ideas or you know, anything between last meeting and this one that we should talk about now?
I know there's some talk about storm sewers. I know some of our poor storm sewers are south of Ferris Road in that area. So I want to kind of look at them and get some mapping together and have something by the next meeting. And maybe move, if I can move forward with it, if that's what we want to address, some storm sewers, I can kind of get the county involved and maybe have something.
I promised to return this document to you last time, and it is just, it's nothing but the criteria by which they judge these projects. So have you been able to internalize a lot of this already, or are you learning it as you go, or? I mean, because last time we didn't score all that well, and I just wanted to know that what we select is already sort of geared for success, you know, based on what they say they're gonna score us on.
They're looking at traffic flow, car counts, connector streets, pedestrian enhancement, things like that is going to score much better. I know you and I talked about, I asked for pedestrian enhancement on
Right.
Walford project,
Right.
and
And it evaporated.
yes, I didn't get to, that was supposed to be in there when I questioned it again, it didn't receive any response from me.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think we would have scored a little bit higher
I agree.
if we had that in.
Well, thank you, and let's talk more and, maybe consider an actual project by next time if that's feasible. But, I think that this experience that we went through last year, because there were also like presentation issues too, I thought at the time, like,
Correct.
they didn't get the best presentation in front of us, in front of more. I think that this is what I'm seeing of late, and it is a relatively recent phenomenon, because the Franklin County Engineers Department has, in my experience, always been amazing. I mean, excellent. But in our last couple of projects, maybe not as much. Maybe they're just where everybody else is in terms of, capacity and being overdone and waiting on stuff and all of that. But between the roundabout and how that eyesore ever happened and our last project here, I think I just want to advocate for taking a stronger hand with them and more oversight of them in terms of what we want, what our expectations are, and if we have to, we're willing to pay for it. But, pushing them in ways that we might not have before, because it's not, I would like to find out from them. I mean, I'm sure they're done with the roundabout. I would like to find out if we can take over now. Can we tear a hole in the middle of that thing and do a little landscaping? Can we, it's terrible. I mean, just Google roundabout Dublin and you can see what a roundabout ought to look like.
And there also was a discussion, they
Terrible.
brought back X amount of dollars just for townships
Oh, yeah.
this year.
500,000.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's five.
Yeah.
That they used to do in the past, and they haven't done that for several
Yeah.
years. So there's X amount of dollars that has to go to the township.
Well, I know that they are gonna have a lot of ownership over that roundabout, having just finished the project, but that doesn't mean we can't invest in it, as far as I'm concerned. So I would just like to start that conversation with them, if you don't mind, in terms of, we've gotten complaints from the public, we've gotten complaints from at least one trustee, twice now. And, you know, if there's more that we can do, I would like to do it. Just a little.
Okay, because Dublin has one that's extremely dangerous.
It is dangerous, but they've redone that, they've
On
redone
Brand
it.
Road,
Pardon
on
me?
Brand Road, they have redone.
No, I'm talking about the one
They
that's
planted tall
Riverside.
grass, they planted tall grasses in the planting area, and they have crosswalks through the middle of it. So when the person enters it, you can't see them.
Right, well, that's why the
You go around the
county's,
turn, here comes somebody popping out
the
of the
county's
grass.
gonna have something to say about what we can and can't do, but we can do better than this. I know we can do more than this, so thank you.
And I know I just used 4 days vacation, but I have something that's come up for tomorrow. Or if they use some flexibility for tomorrow. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Do we have any appreciations, Chief Jones?
Yeah, there's one last thing I forgot to mention, update on Officer Cuccio. He will be out, probably until the end of July. He's going into surgery on Monday.
Oh, no, okay. We want to also, I think, keep Mr. Royce in our thoughts with his injury and just
He should be back.
sending good vibes that direction too.
Any appreciation?
July.
Thank you, July.
Yeah, I want to appreciate the fire department and especially Micah for all of the work that they did on the 20th. Like, it was just really nice to kind of go around and look at the individual streets. And thanks, Jessberger, Trustee Jessberger, for coming out too with her beautiful daughters. It was really fun. It was a nice event. And Micah's is such a great instructor. If you do get a chance, I recommend just learning a little bit of self-defense from him. He really knows how to explain things well. And I think we're going to desperately miss Officer Goodwin. So I think we should have an appreciation goodbye for him as well. He's been such a strong member of his team. He was one of the first officers that came and sat down with me and just had a conversation. So he was kind of my introduction to the department outside of Chief Jones. I just really respect him. He's always been super nice. If I ever needed any help, he just had any sort of suggestions for me. He was also really great to go back and forth with ideas. If I was thinking about doing something, he would kind of give me his opinion of how it would be good or bad for his own work. And so I've always just appreciated him as a person.
Do you have anything?
Is that where you're at?
Mm-hmm.
So first question, I'll start with Ms. Crime. When did you become a trustee? Year?
January 2022.
Okay, so you're pretty well exempt from this. What year did you become a trustee?
April of 20.
April
You're not.
2020.
I know when you became a trustee. Question for you. How much does $4 million cost this township?
What do you think, how much does $4 million
Lost
cost?
$4 million in property.
What does $4 million cost us?
Yes, lost $4 million in property.
I can't begin to, I have no idea where. It would not be good.
We lost
Any-
$4 million in
Talk about the annexations?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the circle part you see there is right up the street here. Pet cemetery, you can tell because it's now the one with the excavator and everything's completely gone with the property. Then it's the buildings left and right. Those were all annexed into the city of Columbus, but yet I've never seen any notice in any of your agendas and minutes from year 2020 to current about any properties being annexed into the city. Or any type of place.
I'm sorry, can I get your name?
Mark.
What's your last name, Mark?
Bill.
You're Mark Bill?
Bill.
Bill? Yeah. Are you a resident, Mark?
Yes.
All right, good, thank you.
I mean, the first part, one property is 1.9 mil. And you'll see in your paperwork, that is, that one actually has an address address of 1138, 1156 Chambers. One is $975,000. That's the pet, what used to be called the pet cemetery. And the next one is $925,000. What was that one? But
I'm sorry, the pet cemetery is the only one that was in the township.
No, all three of those were in the township. Excuse me? I was on the county website. All three of these properties were annexed into the city in the year range 2021 to 2022. Go to their website. The annexing is in there. I've already talked to the county auditor about the exact dates and everything. So the 1140 Chambers Road was annexed in 2021. The pet cemetery was done. Pet cemetery was done in 2022. And the other two properties were done in 2021. They're all by the same company.
Can I, are we looking at the transaction date?
I called the auditor and asked for the exact date of annex. So the 1138, 1156 was annexed June 30th of 2021. See, the appraisal date was the date of annex.
But, if you look up here, the parcel ID numbers are what determines where the parcel.
And 10 is not us.
Correct.
10 is City of Columbus. It was annexed into the City of Columbus. Pull it up and look at tax records. 2020, 2019,
Sir.
2017, all Clinton Township.
Sir, thank you. Can you just, can you remain seated? We
Well, he's arguing over something he doesn't know what color it's
We're
talking
not
about.
arguing. We're just trying to take your information. None of us.
All three of these properties were within the township.
Yes, thank you.
If you watch, that sign that says City of Columbus, Chief Joe probably knows, that used to be all the way down the bar.
Yes, we had clear up the last report.
Yeah,
So
it's now been moving this way.
I hate annexation. What's your end game? Will you?
Why is this board not fighting it or any amounts?
What is it
about
that you
it?
imagine we can legally do, sir? Because it's our frustration too, we're residents too, we live here, and we are powerless in the face of annexation. There is nothing that we can do if somebody really wants to annex. It's the law.
I'm well aware what the law is, but how come when things get annexed over in Hilliard and that, they still stay within the township, they're split tax? Why don't you guys take that approach?
The city of Columbus
I mean-
never asked.
It's not up to us.
They didn't ask us. We would love to not be annexed.
Was anybody at the hearings for the annexings from this township?
We get notices that it's gonna happen.
Does anybody go to them?
I don't know.
See, that's my point. Township sat there and went, yeah, okay, they're annexing, we're not gonna do it.
If I could, my understanding of the parcel ID numbers, which is the number up in the top right.
Right.
010, as you said, is Columbus.
And 420 is Columbus. So 420 is the new number.
420s are the new numbers, and that's a type 2 annexation where the property tax stays with the township.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Go look it up.
Not
The
forever.
township has been removed.
Not forever. There's a phase down. So
This year's taxes, township, 0.
there is a phase down of the type 2 annexation. So we've been saying we're very powerless against
It
it.
was annexed last year, the end of last year.
Sir, it's awful. We
So-
agree with you. We don't want it to happen.
Phase down is what? Oh, you got 3 months of taxes, that's it? That's not how phase down works.
No.
Right, but it's showing 2023, township taxes, number.
I want all the tax revenues we can get. I'm on your side. I don't know what you're asking us to do.
I don't understand why they don't have sent somebody to protest this and put announcements out to the residents. Let us go and speak too. The more people speak against it, the more they listen.
Okay?
I mean, Hilliard started listening to its residents, and they're doing a split thing where they're sharing the
The city
revenue
of
split.
Hilliard, I think, has been nicer to their townships than the city of Columbus.
Oh,
Fine with going on the record with that.
that's-
I don't know the details, but from what you're saying,
I mean, all the stuff
splitting
she
this-
annexed in the city, they're building these apartments, it's hell to come home at night anymore around here. I mean,
I know-
Kenny Road will be lined from King Avenue all the way north of the West Campus thing.
I would
Or
encourage
around.
you to stay in touch with us with these details. It's great and important when civic research happens, and you can go further into rabbit holes than
Well, I only found
staff.
out about this when I went to the grocery store and my estimators in there working everything out.
Yeah.
So I went and looked up to see. if
I
the
guess
property
what I'm
was
saying is
sold.
I encourage you to follow up with me or the officials outside of this meeting. I'm not gonna have good answers for you, but I wanna hear what you're hearing. I'm happy to brainstorm
You guys hear it before we do.
I literally
And
just get the
unfortunately, there's no
paperwork.
residential house within 300 feet of that property.
Yeah. What I'm suggesting is that we stay in better touch with you. I don't think we can stop this monster, but if we can do more promotions to say we don't want
You got a website.
annexations, we can do that.
You got a website you can put it on. You got agenda meeting notes that you put it on. I mean, people don't always attend these, but you go in and read.
Yeah, and we've spent good amount of money on attorneys. There was a pretty big freak out when we thought, the Schottenstein Center was gonna get annexed about 2 years ago. So, and the good news is, it wasn't, actually. The previous meeting, we had a great deal come through with the city of Columbus. The large parcel wasn't just annexed. And it's the first time since I've been here that new development's coming and a large parcel's not getting annexed. So, it's not the good news you want to hear about what has already happened. I'm happy to brainstorm with you of how we can push back against that. I used to be a community organizer. I'm fine with causing a kerfuffle in a professional way. And we have had a great breakthrough with the former Schottenstein Center, the build blocks manufacturing. Connect blocks.
And I know none of you were here, few of you were, when our Triangle Park got built. So I don't know, a lot of you don't know about that valve. City of Columbus said we couldn't have water, had to be annexed into the city. And I wrote the city paperwork and said, no, give me my permit. Franklin County installed the water and sewer lines. In the paperwork, when Franklin County turned over to the city of Columbus, it said the properties do not have to be annexed to Tappan. So if that water line and stuff on that part of Chambers Road is put in by the county, they don't have to be annexed into the city to have water and sewer.
I'd like to see that.
That's great.
Would you mind,
You guys have a copy of someplace in the records when that Triangle Park was done.
do you have a copy?
I don't have any township stuff anymore.
I thought you said you showed it.
Are
I would like
Are
to
the
see,
file
I would
cabinets,
like to see
are
what
the
it was you were
file
talking about.
cabinets still back here in that little room?
Everything's in the room over there, we can't get to it.
In this room right here, there are 2 file cabinets.
Not anymore, no. They're in the main room now, they're in the meeting room now. But we
Unless
can't.
somebody went through those there were 2 file cabinets used to be in that back room. Unless somebody went through and threw all that stuff away, all those records would be in
All right,
there.
so records is me. I'm not aware of files on this floor, but we've done.
Those were our civic association files.
Oh, they're not my records.
Yeah, those were our civic association
Okay.
records. That's what I was part of when this was done.
But when you talk Triangle Park,
Out there, Gerard and,
so
yes.
you're talking gardens at Carroll?
Yeah, where the shelter house is.
Yeah. No, not the shelter.
Oh,
You
the
pulled
little
it
triangle.
at Gerard and Hess, the
Like
triangle.
in front of John's house.
Yeah,
Like in
sorry.
front of John's house.
Sorry, I should not speak to West Side Lines. I get them mixed up.
In front of whose house?
John's?
Caniglio.
What?
Oh,
John's
yes.
Nigley.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I know.
Well, I'm trying to find who John was, because I know 4 Johns in here.
Steiger Park, actually,
Huh?
I believe it's Steiger Park, isn't it?
Mark, let's connect later and find research or records. I would love to avoid any annexations where I can. I hate that I feel like I get the short end of the stick, that the paperwork's done and it's happened. Again, I can't say talking with us more is gonna give you good answers, but I'm happy to glean any good information you're doing because, it should be heard and respected, and it's fantastic if you help avoid annexation in the past. Genuinely, thank you, and I would love to try to avoid that in the future.
Do you get notices from the county or the city when annexations are,
Done.
no, not done, when they are being proposed? When I was fiscal officer, I used to get letters from the city or the county with proposed annexations that were coming up, which I made copies of and gave to the trustees so that they could go and see what was supposed to be coming up and have an option to either say yes or no to it.
You
Do you get those anymore?
You by law are supposed to be getting those.
I don't get those notices.
Maybe they quit sending them out because
they're still
back
required
then
by
there
law.
was only one type of annexation, but now there's 2 types of annexation. So maybe they don't
And
send
everybody
those
uses
out
a
anymore.
short, easy way that we don't have anything to say about.
So usually,
Take 2.
if I don't just get told by the county, I sometimes, once or twice, I've been up at the front window, right when a guy's coming, I have no choice, I have to sign it. I have 1 or 2 times had an attorney, like all the paperwork's done, they have to get my autograph. I don't wanna sign it, but I have to, and then I email the documents to everybody. But you both probably are right, that there's an email thread that I could be on, maybe it's the county economic meetings that these things come up on. If there's an email list I'm not on, I get on it. The laws are robust and huge, and if they're missing notifying us, like I said, I'll plug in with you and try and do better at this, but I felt very powerless all along.
Sadly, the walls need updated to current, because, there used to be a little building there that the guy that bought the vet center, it used to be the house there on the corner,
Mhm.
that was the veterinarian, that was the vet center.
Mhm.
He built a building here,
Someone said pottery guy, and then.
well, he was campus. Real nice guy, if you ever catch him there.
Well,
Because usually he's there late at night, because he does shows and stuff, but the way he got that building built was he skipped the township, the county, he went straight to the state, he got a state permit.
I'll do some research on these
And that-
properties.
Can
I'll
we-
share.
can
That
we
was
ask
fun, like, we're trying to
Julie?
find out how he got the ability to build that without anybody knowing about it.
Can we ask Julie, if we're legally required to be notified? Cause I mean, if we're not and they're not doing it, that's a huge problem.
yeah,
So I feel like that would be a good question for Julie, so that we would know what can we fight?
like I get sent, economic development county somebody's meeting, and the administrator gets those agendas as well. So it could be that they're like, oh, we put it on the agenda, we sent you the email, you were notified. It didn't say annexation might happen, so I'll find out later. We can bring this up again when we're, meeting on the 6th on the next meeting. And I wanna give you my contact information. I'm sure we'll look back and see if there's, something I'm missing. I will try to get on it.
I'll do more research on these three
Which
properties.
actually, Jennifer, to realize that this one's still at 420.
That's the
that's
new
the
number
annex-
for Columbus.
That's the annex property.
Because I couldn't figure out what 420
Tax
was.
district, Columbus, Clinton Township, Columbus Schools.
No, that's listed on all of them. If you go through there, everything over on this side, everything Clinton Township's listed, but there's no dollars.
Over here, it's, on the other two, it says, under tax district, it says City of Columbus, 010. On this one, it says, under tax district,
Yeah, most of
420,
The 420s are the combined Columbus Clinton Township new district.
Columbus.
Those
So they're saying
Yeah.
Columbus and Clinton Township tags.
Yeah.
Those are the type two.
I didn't know what
property tax
420 was,
cases.
I never heard 420.
Well, it took 6 people at the auditor's office to find out what it was.
So it must be a new number they.
They're the ones that make the codes up at 80.
Well, what I'm saying is I'm happy to glean all your research that you've done, and it's good. And I know you're doing it just to protect our township and our coffers, so.
We keep losing things. I mean, sadly, we gave away Lane Avenue as a fire agreement.
Before my time, but it's
Look at what happened there now. Multi-million-dollar properties going in.
On the south side there.
No, we're in Lane Avenue.
Because of Lane Avenue and
Yeah.
North
On the
Side.
south side of
South
Lane
side
Avenue.
Lane Avenue.
On the south side, the north side's still in the town.
Yeah, the north side still is.
And we'll try
Yeah,
to
but
keep
nothing's
that.
happening over there. Half those businesses are closed right now.
Well, if time's anything,
I
20 years
agree
from now,
with
people would
Pet-
behoove us to do it now, so we don't lose North Lane. It will happen if we don't do it.
I know that is not you, I wish I could put a steep arrow there. And traffic light. They don't enforce it.
I'll do more research to follow up with what Mark has
You don't
said.
know, like I was just thinking about them. Yeah, the maps are just showing where they are, like, I'm showing where the firehouses. The one on page means firehouse, where they are.
So the east, okay, I don't have duplicates, I didn't want to take anything more from you, so.
It's on the west side. Oh.
Those are valuable.
No, they really are. I don't have any, I'm looking for some. It's a thing.
Mr. Hill, I just wanted to let you know that part of the deal that we just crafted over the shopping center actually includes a moratorium on annexation for a while.
The Schottenstein Center?
The old Valley City.
Next.
Oh,
Ennis in Westerville.
what's going in there? What are they doing
So,
with
Is Connect Housing, Connect One Housing,
Connect
Connect Block
Housing
Housing?
that? I'm just glad to see somebody cleaning up, because that's their
Yeah,
big work.
it's gonna be part manufacturing of these small container housing units and part housing of them, using them, and, so part of the deal that we cut with the city over this is to stop annexing until we can talk about this, solving the water and sewer issue. So we are taking proactive measures now about trying to keep these things in the best that we can. But reality is, they're the big bully on the block and we're gonna have to do what we're told, right? So we're doing the best we can to talk to them about working with us as opposed to working against us.
They're not as bad as they were
Hopefully,
10, 15 years ago.
right,
They literally just slammed the door in the face, said, we don't have to give you information.
right.
Yeah,
Well, they have indicated a new willingness to collaborate a little bit, so we're working on that, we're gonna get everything we can.
I was just so glad when all those junk cars and that,
Yeah.
I guess you would call it a motor home or mobile home or whatever it was. What was
They're
left of the
already-
skeleton that had been there for 15 years. We just, that stuff is pretty ready to review.
Well, thank you for coming in and bringing all this to our attention. I found it very enlightening, and I'm new, so I love learning all that I can. Thank you.
I just have one quick thing. Again, the plants walk this Saturday morning, 10 o'clock at the playground. Bring any plants that you've got extras of, or bulbs, or even apparently you can bring packets of seeds and exchange them. I don't know that we've done that before, but you can. So 10 o'clock to whenever, probably 11, 11:30, or when people are done.
We want to sneak over to Violet's house and dig anything up?
What?
We want to sneak over to Violet's old house and dig anything up?
I don't know if there's anything there worth digging up, and they've probably torn that all up by
No,
now
he hasn't.
anyway.
No, he hasn't. All
Well,
he
they
did,
have-
he took the buildings down, the chicken coops, the
Oh, okay.
outhouse and the barn.
Well, I don't wanna check back there. If you want to, you can. I don't wanna deal with raccoons and stuff that are probably back there.
Alright, thank you for sharing that again. Alright, at this time, I would like to make a motion to enter into an executive session for ORC 121.22G1 to consider the employment, appointment, and compensation of public employees or officials.
Second?
Trustee Sierra?
Yes.
Trustee Graham?
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey?
I'm sorry, what? The file cabinets are in that meeting room around there. We can't get to any of that stuff. We're locked out of